Welcome everybody to this week's bi-weekly community call. We hold these calls every other week on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. UTC. This week we have some big updates to go over. We're going to start today with the tokenomics proposal. Ray is on the call and is going to give us an overview of that proposal that's on the forum. He's been working on it for quite a while, so I'm looking forward to hearing his talk. I'm going to go over the FTX Claims filing. I've released a few announcements this week, so we'll go over some of that information. On the update side, we will hear the weekly update from the foundation. I'll go over the last week in cover sales and the active coverage by cover type. And I'll also touch on some governance updates, namely the DAO team funding proposal for Q1 and Q2 and the wNXM buyback discussion. So I will move on to the next slide and I will hand things over to Ray. Ray, the floor is yours to talk about tokenomics.
Okay, thanks, Lee. I don't think there's much point in going into the detail of the mechanism on this call, so I'm just gonna say that yeah, I have been working on it for a while. There's been lots of internal conversations, and I say internal, I mean within the team with various stakeholders, VCs, cover buyers, etc., and also with a great number of community members. And many of them are now also participating in the discussion in Discord and in the Tokenomics revamp channel. The post is on the forum in, I think it's called Tokenomics Proposal Replacing the Bonding Curve. You can find a TLDR of the mechanism there, as well as a link to the full document explaining the proposed mechanism in detail. I think it's worth touching on the goals here. So I think there's been reasonable frustration from the community that MCR has sat below the floor for a really long time, which means that redemptions are disabled from the mutual. So the main goal is to kind of get rid of that mechanism and let members who want to exit again exit. However, there's a variety of other considerations that we have to take into account, and so that's where the things like retaining capital for users to feel comfortable, and yeah, basically making sure that the mutual can still pay its claims appropriately. So yeah, anyone who's interested, check out the post on the forum, jump into the Discord and join in with the conversation there. I think mainly what we're trying to achieve here is consensus that we're moving in the right direction, that the goals that we've set are appropriate, and you can tell that by the debate on Discord that actually it's kind of a fundamental thing, right? How much capital do we release and how quickly? And should we just be letting members exit at whatever speed they want to do that, or is there some sort of balance to be struck there? And what price should members be getting of for the token? All of this sort of conversation is ongoing. So jump in if that's the sort of thing that you're interested in discussing. In terms of timeline, I think it's priority number one after V2 goes live. So there's been some feedback on the timeline being a bit lengthy in the proposal. I think to an extent that is because of kind of how long V2 has taken. Hoping that this should be a less complicated change and it doesn't impact as many aspects of the mutual, but didn't really want to say, oh yeah, it'll definitely be released in a few months, and then devs having a look at it, seeing how finding things in there that sound perfectly reasonable from a theoretical perspective, but from a technical implementation perspective are actually quite difficult. And there's always the fight for audit slots and etc. as well. Yeah, I think basically there's a balance to be struck between retaining some capital and providing exit liquidity to members. That is sort of the raging debate, and I think finding where the community sits in that spectrum as a whole is key to making this a success. I think the mechanism that has been put forward can, by tweaking parameters, you can set that at different levels. And then, yeah, the main thing that I want to come out of the initial discussion is even if the mechanism itself is potentially has some flaws that we haven't considered, there needs to be a broad agreement of like, okay, how much capital can leave the pool in what time frame. That's the key question here, and that's what I'm really looking for members to help out with and come up with their views and come up with some numbers. I would ask that if you provide feedback, spend some time considering your thoughts and outline what you think should happen in some detail, like members already have, which is much appreciated.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, I don't know if there's any initial questions or anything, but if you haven't checked that out, I have a link to that in the thread for today's call. I think it's definitely an important discussion, and I think once there's a rough consensus, then we can start talking about priorities and timelines to governance and things along those lines. So yeah, I really appreciate the update, Ray. And if there are no questions or comments, I can move on to the next section and talk about FTX claims. So I've released some announcements here in the last few weeks because we have upcoming claim events throughout February. The first one that's going to come up is for FTX. And given that FTX has been kind of, I think, the most messy way a custodian can implode, there have been some special announcements I've put out to help people get proof of loss, to verify their accounts ahead of claims filing. In this claim event, there's going to be partial claims, and then just what's the claims process, what are the dates that you can file claims, things along those lines. So I wanted to go over some of that today on the call, just to give people some guidance and something to refer to. I've had questions on this. I know there's a lot of different announcements. Hopefully this streamlines things for everybody. So the first thing is for those who are filing FTX claims or any of the custodian claims coming up, you have to verify that you own your custodial account before filing your claim. This is a private off-chain process. It is outlined in an announcement that was made last week. That's also in the thread for today's call. What needs to happen is you need to send uncensored proof of loss documents with your name visible to the claims at nexusmutual.io address. From there, essentially, Q is going to confirm that against KYC information to make sure that the person filing a claim is indeed the person that owns the FTX account. There has been questions back and forth and some chatter about people buying up FTX accounts from people and then attempting to file claims. The reason that this account verification process is being implemented is to make sure that there are no fraudulent claims, given you have to be a user at the time the loss occurs and hold cover. So you can't hold cover, have withdrawn your funds, and then buy an account from somebody to file a claim and get a payout. That's not how coverage works. So with this, just need folks to include their name that they KYC'd with, their membership address, and the cover ID, so we can verify that against this. And then once Hugh confirms, he can send me a yes or a no, and I can verify for that cover ID. This info that's submitted to the claims address is not made public. The only thing that's noted on the standard Google sheet that we use for different claim events is just, yes, has someone been verified for that claim ID or that cover ID, or no, they haven't. That's the only public denotation. When claims are filed, at that time, there'll be proof of loss in the standard process. But all of the information that you'll need here is included in the verifying custodial account ownership announcement, as well as the announcement that I just put out this week about how FTX cover holders can prepare for claims filing. For proof of loss here, there's a multitude of examples in this case. So you can share screenshots of your account balance with USD and crypto holdings, support emails with dates and withdrawal requests, given that if you initiated a withdrawal on the 9th or the 10th or anywhere within that 1 week, they weren't honored. Transaction history, withdrawals or deposit records, account statements in various formats. If you share any documents, if you can just host those on a Google Drive and share as a link when filing your claim or your claims. This just goes along the lines of proof of loss as is outlined in the custody cover wording. If you did not previously download or keep records of your holdings on a custodial account, you can contact that Kroll Restructuring Administration LLC to verify that you owned an account and to verify your loss amount. The info for that is also in the announcement that went out this week, and about 3 weeks ago we put out an announcement about how to go about contacting Kroll, who's handling the FTX limited trading bankruptcy case. And partial claims will be enabled for FTX claims. So if somebody is filing a claim, they should file a claim for their actual loss, not for the total amount. So when claims assessors are reviewing and they're reviewing your proof of loss, if you're requesting a payout for 50,000 DAI when you only lost 25 DAI, it's very unlikely that your claim is going to get approved. So make sure that you verify what your loss is. Loss is determined per previous custody cover claim events. It's determined at the 90-day mark when withdrawals are halted, right before claims filing begins. If you need help for any reason determining the loss amount that you should file a claim for, you can reach out in the Nexus Mutual Discord right in that FTX claims support discussion in the DAO forums channel. And then this highlight here from the cover wording is just talking about partial claims, that partial claims should be made where possible, and that will be possible for FTX claims. And then as far as the dates go, there's 2 different dates depending on if you had an account with FTX International or FTX US, because they halted withdrawals at different times. For FTX International, it is the 6th of February at 10:54 p.m. UTC. For FTX US, it is the 9th of February at 5 p.m. UTC. So standard claims process, you'll file your claim in the Nexus Mutual User Interface. You'll include proof of loss, incident details, and the amount that you are filing a claim for. Be sure, if you're providing proof of loss, that you censor any personal information that is going to be public. But as long as you black out your name or any other personal identifying information, as long as claims assessors can verify your loss amount, that you lost funds, and then compare that against the amount that you're filing a claim for, that's what you'll need for proof of loss. And after you submit your claim, it would be helpful if you could create a discussion in the DAO forums channel on Discord. And in your claim discussion, you can include the cover ID, the cover claim ID, the cover amount, and then the context for claims assessors if there's any extenuating circumstances that you want to note in that discussion when people are reviewing claims. You can use that claims tag when you post your thread in the DAO forum channel. What will be nice for this is that people can put individual claims when they file them in Discord, and you can actually search and filter for claims right in the DAO forums channel. So it'll be very easy to filter, and no one's claims discussion gets lost in one giant channel if there's multiple discussions happening. So hopefully that should improve the readability and some of the discussions for this claims filing process. So these are the major points. I know I kind of zoomed through this, but there are also quite a few resources out there about this. All of those are linked in the thread for today's call, and there's also associated discussions in the DAO forums channel. Before I move on, I'll share the weekly update from the foundation, as it sounds like Hugh is having some issues and won't be able to make it. Before I do move on, are there any questions, or does anybody want to say anything about FTX claims before I move on to the foundation announcement? Okay. I will take that silence as a no, and I will move on to the weekly update from the foundation. So I will share this on behalf of Hugh because Hugh has shared some updates with me that I can share. On V2, the plan is to have a staged rollout of V2 due to the various components involved. Partial claims will be the first thing coming out, and folks can expect a governance vote in the coming days. There'll be a post on the forum and then a vote later this week. That'll be something that you can look forward to. I'll have announcements about that as well. Essentially, the vote will be about allowing the advisory board to roll out V2 in stages. This is pretty exciting, though. There's a lot of components and features in V2 that are going to be great from a strategic viewpoint. A lot of things that were previously unavailable will be available in V2. One product feature that Hugh is really looking forward to is dynamic pricing. So when risk changes in the market, like what we saw with FTX, things can move dynamically. If there's a slew of cover buys coming in, that price will shift up dynamically to kind of control supply and demand and also capture more revenue for the mutual to limit some of our exposure to risk as well. So that's one really nice feature, but there's quite a few features in V2 that are going to be really great for those buying cover or those acting as risk assessors, and even those acting as claims assessors. And of course, the ability for people to build on top and then launch new products and underwrite risk. So this model is going to be pretty powerful. It'll be a way for us to expand distribution and to expand the cover products that we offer over time. So a lot of exciting things coming on V2. There'll be more announcements as well. At the bottom of the thread for today's call, you can also see a teaser for something that'll be announced a little bit later this week. On the tokenomics front, he was just commenting that it's great to see the discussion happening, and we'll organize some more methods for getting deeper into the details. He was a strong proponent of the new design and believed the tricky part is going to be setting up the parameters. Again, that discussion is on the forum. You can also talk in the Tokenomics Revamp channel about that, but hopefully everybody can review that and weigh in because it's a pretty important step to take, and then that'll be the next priority after the V2 rollout is complete. And he wanted me to share that he's talked with several potential syndicate operators, as has the team, and there's quite a lot of interest coming in about building on top of V2 once it's live. So once V2 does go live, then we can help these syndicates build on top of the protocol and expand distribution as the year goes on and ETH Denver comes about. I'll be at ETH Denver, can talk to some people and try to get some interest in getting integrations and maybe some larger protocols where people can buy cover directly in front ends somewhere else. So there's a lot that we can do with V2, but it's great to hear that there's interest from various people that want to operate syndicates, or as we're calling them in the documentation that'll come out later, staking pool managers and staking pools. And on FTX and other custody claims that are coming up, he wants to note that this is a big opportunity for us to demonstrate that the mutual pays, that the process that we have is battle tested, and it's worked so far for over 9 million in claims. And I'm hoping, even with some of the bumpy things on proof of loss and FTX shutting down their website, that the avenues that we've shared can offer a way for people to file claims and get payouts where loss has happened. And of course, having partial claims is going to be a huge benefit here. So paying claims when there's a loss is always an important opportunity for members, and it's also why we exist. So underwrite risk and pay out claims when there is loss. Looking forward to reviewing those FTX claims as they roll in here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have more announcements on that. But those are the updates from the foundation side. Before I move on, are there any questions about any of those updates? Okay. I will move on to the cover sales. The last week in cover sales is sourced from the Nexus tracker. As a note, the Nexus tracker, as it tracks the wNXM price and the amount of capital in the pool, is slightly off. There's a hiccup with where it's looking. So cover sales are still coming through, but those two metrics are kind of frozen right now. And given we're working on the Dune dashboards, updating that is going to be a little bit of a hiccup and take a little time. But that's a side note on the cover sales for the last week. We saw another great week of cover buys. We sold 26.5 million in cover. and brought in $68,127 in cover fees. Some of our biggest buys came in were for Convex Finance, which definitely had the most cover sold in the last week and the highest cover fees earned. We saw Sherlock Excess Cover renew their coverage. Big cover buys coming in for Aave V2 and Euler, as well as Aura Finance. And then looks like somebody's bought a significant amount of cover for Nested, Balancer, Uniswap, and then that bundled cover for Gilt got a renewal as well. So seeing a lot of protocol cover being purchased here in the last week and even the week before. So nice to see some of those cover products like excess cover being renewed, and some of our traditional products just keep on selling and are very successful. So it's been really strong cover sales since the beginning of the year. Pretty heavily skewed toward DAI denomination, with about 93% DAI denomination for cover sold and about 7% in ETH denomination. It's about 82% for DAI denomination for cover fees earned and about 18% for ETH denomination. So looking forward to reviewing coverage for next week. We've seen some big cover buys this week already, and looking forward to sharing that report next week as well. Looking at active coverage by cover type, this is also sourced from the Nexus tracker. So total active cover collectively is 182.4 million. For protocol cover, it's a little bit more than 144.3 million. Custody cover is 20.6 million. Excess cover is a bit over 7 million. ETH staking cover is 9.3 million, and yield token cover is a little bit over 1 million. I will have a more detailed breakdown in the newsletter of breakdown of active coverage by individual cover products within each one of these categories, so you can see that in the newsletter. But good sized covers coming in. We're seeing protocol cover rising and have a solid amount of active coverage. Diving into some of the governance updates, we have some active discussions on the forum. I wanted to take some time and go over the DAO team's funding proposal. So this is open for review. It's been open since the 16th. It'll be open until the 26th. If there are no substantial comments, this will transition to a snapshot vote on the 27th and will close on the 3rd of February. This is the proposal for the existing teams for the renewal and a proposal to add a couple more teams to the DAO. It's a pretty hefty proposal, so I thought I would just go through on the call here and give you a highline view of these teams, the proposals. The 6-month funding request across all of the teams is $344,500. The funding period is going to be for the next 6 months. So jumping into this, we have the community teams, the marketing team, the investment team, operations, and the R&D team. Looking at the community team and the priorities that are on the docket for the next 6 months, a lot of it is going to be supporting the V2 rollout. I've been working intensely on the V2 documentation and moving it over to Docusaurus. Since it's open source, if other people want to contribute and help out with the docs, they can. It also gives us some functionality that we don't have in GitHub. And I think most importantly, it's open source. Going to be a lot of V2 content creation and working with the marketing team to optimize our content creation and distribute it and effectively reach new audiences, but also inform people on the new features in V2. I've got a project on the docket for a Discord notification spot. So letting you know when your cover is about to expire, letting you know when capacity becomes available, different things along those lines. So I think that'll be really helpful for members, as we get that question a lot in Discord. Providing claims guidelines and support over the month of February. I anticipate quite a few questions. We've seen a lot already. And then we'll be overhauling the governance forum and providing an update there, which is kind of in line with some of the things coming in the V2 documentation. There's more detail in our duties and our breakdown of the budget on the forum. Just a high-level breakdown. The team lead salary is $60,000 for the next 6 months. The community manager, Sam, who helps a lot with the newsletter, putting together some of the reports like active coverage by cover type and the cover sales for the last week, and helping work on the newsletter. There's a lot that Sam does, a lot of research. Her Her pay for the next 6 months is $18,000. A travel budget for going to conferences like ETH Denver, for going to one for Planner DAO. That travel budget's included there at 10 grand, and the Discord notifications project is 2,000 for the initial project and for maintenance over time. So the total request is 90,000 for the next 6-month period, which represents a little bit more than 25% reduction compared to the last 6-month funding request for community-related expenses. On the marketing side, the updated brand launch is a big part. Claudio has been working very hard on the brand launch and on the website launch. He's been doing a great job there. And V2 marketing is going to be a big component. With the new website and the blog on the website, we'll be able to drive a lot more traffic there, and we'll be able to measure the impact of what we're doing through a variety of ways. I know Claudio is working on a dashboard so we can track a bunch of highline metrics and some core KPIs. And Claudio is going to be serving as the head of marketing. We used to be one team. We're splitting off into two because our mandates are a little different. Marketing is about bringing people in and achieving growth in membership. And community is more about informing folks, maintaining members and keeping them engaged, so member retention, and a lot of education and providing resources to members, especially when claim events happen. So a little bit different. The budget here is $60,000 for the team lead salary. There's a budget for a designer. He's been working on the Nexus Mutual websites. He'll be working on another website that'll be created for the DAO. His budget is $4,000. A travel budget for Claudio of $3,000, and then tooling and different support to track different metrics over time, so also for content creation. So his total budget is $77,000 for the next 6 months, which is about a 17% reduction compared to the last 6 months of marketing expenses. The investment team, their priorities are similar to last time, but updated. So invest more of the capital pool in ETH staking solutions, rebalance assets and liabilities, invest the DAO treasury, which we've referred to in the past as the community fund, and manage the M11 Maple recovery. There was that vote on Snapshot that gave the exit management from that pool to the investment team, and they've been handling that and doing a great job. The head of investment here is Dopey, and the advisors that are working with Dopey to review these different things are going to be Nico, Alex, Gautier, and Guillaume, who you can find a bio for all of them on the forum as well. So the coordinate funding for this 6-month period is $37,500. If the weekly contributions don't match up, there can be an excess there for the budget, but essentially, as the investment team meets, depending on how much time individuals put in, they vote with coordinate, give, and allocate pay that way. I think the investment team has been doing a great job managing the Maple recovery, and there's a lot that we can look at in investments going forward. And I am looking forward to hearing some of their thoughts on more ETH staking solutions that we can use to make a larger portion of the capital pool productive. The operations team is one of the new teams. So this one is going to be headed by Kaylee as head of operations. Her priorities are going to be to create a DAO-facing dashboard for monitoring funds, governance proposals, and team projects. This is to kind of keep the DAO organized and make sure that cross-team projects are being managed effectively, that nothing's falling through the cracks, that spending is happening appropriately and it's tied to the deliverables and the goals that are outlined in our proposals, and creating and maintaining a DAO community website, which is one of the things that marketing will be supporting operations with. This is something that would add greater transparency to members, so you can look at what each team is working on, what the status of those deliverables and priorities are, what historic spending has been like, where money is being spent, and what impact it's making. And then coordinating whole team on-site events to align and monitor goals and projects. So that would be getting the DAO teams together with the foundation teams and working together, and then going away and working separately because we all work remotely, but just trying to coordinate and align on what we're doing. and making sure that we're all working in the same direction and not conflicting with each other. And also coordinating in real life, in-person events with some of our members at certain conferences as they come up. The team lead salary here is $60,000 for the next 6 months, and the travel budget is $3,000 for a total of $63,000. And this is one of the proposed new teams. More detail on the forum about this as well if you're curious. And then the R&D team was formerly the Tokenomics Working Group. Grown out of that has been this team. So their priorities are the Tokenomics revamp, a Dune analytics launch, which is going to replace some of the things we track with the Nexus tracker. This will be a variety of Dune dashboards that covers, claims, capital pool and membership rates, as well as staking stats, which will expand out to track things at a staking pool level and as an aggregate whole of how the different staking pools or syndicates are operating. For the next 6 months, the team lead salary is $30,000, as Ray will be part-time. The team lead back pay for some of the work that was contributed that wasn't allocated in the previous budget is $15,000. And the contractor, the Dune wizard that's working with us on the Dune dashboards, is $12,000 for a total of $57,000 for the next 6 months. These proposals are important. These are on the forum. I know they're kind of lengthy. If anybody would like to share their feedback on the forum, there's been comments back and forth here. I will say that I've been involved in other DAOs, and while we have a relatively small group of contributors, they are very efficient and they all work very hard. I really enjoy what I do and I enjoy working for the DAO. I think there's a lot coming up around V2 that we can make a big impact about. It's just kind of lining things up, getting the launch, and then getting the materials out there. So looking forward to this going to vote and looking forward to any comments in the meantime. And then I touched on this the last time we talked, but there have been some more comments on the forum about the wNXM buyback discussion. So some of the high-level things are, should we do a buyback? How much capital should be allocated? How should execution be handled? And does this impact liquidity for the Tokenomics revamp project? Some of the considerations are where it falls in priorities, as far as Tokenomics and V2, how we manage execution. Dopey has some great stuff on the forum talking about how we could handle this, how we could handle execution by allocating a certain amount. I think he proposes 5% of the capital pool, and then determining a range that would be used for this buyback that could be executed over time by having a certain range above the current price, and then putting in limit orders that can be filled over time as well. So there's discussion happening here. I think it's really valuable to take a look at this. This discussion and the Tokenomics revamp discussion are two separate things. So if you're discussing this, there's a channel on Discord that you can discuss in, or there's the entry on the forum. Take a look at that and review that if you would like to. I just wanted to highlight that on this call because it's definitely something we've seen a lot of discussion about within Discord and on the forum as well. On that note, I know that I've been talking a lot, and I just want to ask if anybody has any questions about either of those two governance proposals that I just went through. If not, it is the open forum section, so if there's anything that I didn't cover or any questions that you have, feel free to type something in the community calls text channel or speak up in voice. The floor is yours. Thank you as always for joining us on the call. A lot of exciting things happening in the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned for some more interesting updates this week. I look forward to talking with you on the next call. Have a great rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you in a couple of weeks on the next call.